would like to start with thanking the organizers for this opportunity to present our work on Granins in irritable bowel syndrome. I am nothing to declare. So we have evaluated fecal as well as mucosal Granins and shown that these are linked to innate immunity, markers of intestinal permeability, bacterial diversity, as well as symptom severity in irritable bowel syndrome patients. Granins, consisting of chromogranins as well as secretogranins, are regulatory proteins. They are part of our endocrine system, but they work as signaling molecules. They are mainly produced by endocrine cells, but also mast cells and nerves are able to produce granins. They are thought to be part of our first-line defense against invading microorganisms. Both fungi, bacteria, as well as viruses are affected by granins that are acidic proteins. They have also been shown to act both pro as well as anti-inflammatory. And granins has been suggested as potential biomarkers for psychological and neurological diseases. It's mainly been chromogranin A that has been explored. So our group has previously shown that there are increased levels of chromogranin A, secretogranin 2, as well as secretogranin 3 levels in IBS patients, while chromogranin B levels were decreased in their feces. And these findings have previously have been confirmed by other groups, for instance in the Netherlands, where they've shown that there are increased chromogranin A levels in the feces of IBS patients. Further, groups have looked at other media, such as Serum, and shown that there is a proportion of IBS patients which have increased levels of chromogranin A in serum. However, the results between the studies are somewhat conflicting, and some studies show that there is a very low proportion of patients, while other studies show a higher proportion. Alphadiversity group in Norway has also looked at chromogranin A containing cells along the gastrointestinal tract and shown that there is a decreased number of chromogranin A containing cells in the intestine of IBS patients. The microbial diversity, as many of you have heard of, in a healthy state is characterized by a high diversity with many different bacteria and a nice balance in the abundance of these different bacteria. However, in an unhealthy state, such as IBS or IBD, the bacterial diversity has been shown to be reduced. This can be due to extrinsic factors, such as diet and medication, but also intrinsic factors, such as gut motility and gut inflammation, and also potentially gut chromogranins can affect the microbial diversity. So the background of the study is that in IBS patients, we have previously shown that there are increased fecal levels of chromogranins and secretogranins. However, the consequences and causes of these altered levels of granins is still undefined. So our hypothesis was that these alterations in granins, they will be linked to an altered bacterial composition, immune activity, as well as gastrointestinal and psychological symptoms. And therefore we aim to determine potential relationships between granin levels, both in the mucosa as well as feces, the bacterial composition, immune activity, and IBS symptoms. So the study design was as follows. We evaluated fecal granins in both the mucosa as well as feces of 145 IBS patients. We also did 16S analyzations of the fecal microbiota and looked at immune and permeability markers. And we chose to look at the toll-like receptors as a marker of innate immunity, recognizing bacterial components, and tight junction proteins as a marker of intestinal permeability. We also did a lot of clinical assessments, of course. For instance, the patients filled in the IBS symptom severity scale, the hospital and anxiety and depression scale, as well as the gastrointestinal symptom rating scale. So, when we looked at the relationships between IBS symptoms and granin levels, we discovered that there were no link between any of the granins in either mucosa or in feces and the different IBS subtypes according to the Rome-free criteria, which we use to characterize the IBS patients. However, IBS patients with a higher general psychological distress, characterized by a higher total health score, showed higher fecal levels of common granin A, as well as secretogranin free level. Also, IBS patients with a higher IBS symptom severity, measured with the GSRS-IBS, showed higher common granin B, and secretogranin free levels. We continue and subdivided the IBS patients according to the IBSSSS into either those with mild or moderate symptoms with the IBSSSS total score of under 300, or those with more severe symptoms with the IBSSSS score over 300, and discovered that even though there is a great overlap, independent of granin, there is an increased level of chromogranins as well as secretogranins in the IBS patients with more severe symptoms. We continued to look at this IBS group with more severe symptoms and discovered that while the fecal levels of granins were negatively associated with expression of toll-like receptors in the sigmoideum, the mucosal expression of granins were positively associated. Regarding tight junction proteins, the pattern wasn't as clear. We saw that fecal levels of secretogranin-3, as well as mucosal levels of secretogranin-2, showed a positive association to mucosal expression of granins, while the expression of the other granins showed a negative association to mucosal expressions of tight junction proteins. We also wanted to look at the microbial composition, and we started to look at Alphadiversity or richness to see if there was a reduced abundance of different bacteria. And saw that, again, independent of granin type, IBS subjects with a low diversity showed high granin levels in their feces. So, to summarize this project, this talk, granins, they show association to IBS severity as well as psychological distress. Further, IBS patients with more severe symptoms, in these patients there is a link between granins and toll-like receptor expression as well as the expression of tight junction proteins. And also, the granins show an association or a link to the fecal microbiome in terms of richness. So the conclusion we can draw from this study is that high levels of fecal chromogranins as well as secretogranins in irritable bowel syndrome patients are linked to increased gastrointestinal as well as psychological symptoms, an altered fecal microbiota composition, and also an altered expression of permeability and innate immunity, markers of permeability and innate immunity in IBS patients with more severe symptoms. And last, I would like to thank my group at Gothenburg University, Mats Wiksberg at Uppsala University, and our collaborators at them. Thank you.